We are getting a full house. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rodney Patterson. I'm Jerry Patterson, Burklund's young. I want to thank you all for being here. I've met a lot of people I haven't seen in a long time. I've met a few folks I don't know if I've ever seen. And it's a pleasure to be with you here this afternoon. And what I have been invited to do is tell you the story of my little baby sister from a hill country cedar hauler's point of view. Now, our father often said, it was a darn little cedar chopping you ever did, pal, and he was right about that. But I knew a little bit about cedar breaks, and I knew a little bit about how Jerry grew up, even though she was 20 years ahead of me, because we grew up in the same house and had the same parents. And so from that perspective, which is a little bit flavored with, shall we say, hillbilly sauce, think of Arkansas hillbillies and transplant them to the hill country west of Austin, and you got it. This is where our friend, sister, mother, blessed loved one, Jerry Burklund came from. So without further apologia, and maybe I may draw some friends out of this before I'm done, but we're going to have a little fun, Jerry. We're going to look back and talk to you about how it all started. We were looking for old pictures, really old pictures. And it's hard to do for a couple of reasons. There weren't many cameras around back in those days, which were way back there. So far, we won't even say. Sometimes we're not even sure where the cameras came from. We have to make a guess, and I've been working with Hollis on this. We don't know exactly how old Jerry was in this picture, but we like it a lot because she's barefoot, she's got that hill girl look to her, all that sort of thing. A little bit of sauce about her. We think maybe 14. What do you think, Jerry? She's not going there. She's not going to volunteer on any of them. Well, this is kind of how it started, and this might be, it's not the earliest picture. We have a few earlier than this, but this might be the earliest teenage picture we have of Jerry. And then it was followed by, the next thing you know, that little hill country girl was kind of turning eyes a little bit. I've had people in family tell me that this middle picture was taken when Jerry was probably not much more than 14. And as Hollis has pointed out, back in those days when the cameras were new, everybody had to sort of pose, you know? Everybody had to sort of show off a little bit. And it wasn't just Jerry, everybody did it. You'll see what I'm talking about. As time walked along, we get upwards and we think Jerry's probably in high school at this point, could have been a little after. There's that model pose, we like that. Jerry, we wouldn't tease you if we didn't like it. So all I can say is that as time went along, she's still posing. She gets out there and she has her props like her farm tractors behind her, and this is on Facebook, I'm telling you, she likes it, okay? And we have her recent picture to bring you up to stuff. So the question is, how did that modest little waif of a girl from the hill country get to be this fine, refined lady that is now the maestro of the farm around here in the Maxwell area? Well, it starts like this. Way back when, you can almost hear the banjo music going, because way back then, we were looking for cameras still, and nobody has a clue exactly how old this picture is. But I can tell you that those are my 4 siblings. I'm not there because I hadn't been thought of by 20 years. The little squirts who are not labeled are cousins of ours, never mind them. We have Grace, Alice, and Steve, and behind them, way back in the background, that's Daddy's cedar truck. It was a flatbed. I can remember that truck. It was still around in the 50s. So, where's Jerry? She's the little one, because she was the baby of the family. So, we started looking for more pictures, and sure enough, this is one we think was taken on the same day. And to give you an idea, we who slave over these pictures want you to know how difficult it can be. This is what it came from. A lot of times these pictures get shot, they get reshot. They're pictures of pictures. In this case, it's pictures of pictures of pictures of pictures. And they have, usually because they're shot with box cameras made by Kodak back in the 30s and the 40s, they have very poor exposure qualities, no ability to adjust. But God bless Adobe, Photoshop, and Lightroom, we can bring it back to life. And so you see on the left, we're enhancing these a little bit. We're not changing much. You're still who you are, Jerry. So, in any case, there's the family again, and Jerry, of course, is the little one, second from the left. Now we get into school days pictures. Aren't many of them. You'd think that there'd be 12 grades, there'd be 12 pictures, right? Not exactly. We went through all the shoe boxes. I say we, I did this personally back when Mom and Daddy were still with us. There was a time when I went through every shoe box Mama had, took a picture of every picture she had in the house, because I knew they were important for this day and others like it. So, in any event, we have this one. Any guess, Jerry?
You know, our house burned down when I was 12.
That's right, and that was 1945. And you know, I never have known to this day, did pictures exist that were lost in that fire?
Oh yes, oh yes.
Okay.
And some of those pictures that you have were given to Mom by my cousin.
Probably Della Edwards and her family. Somehow Della was a cousin related to us on our mama's side, and she had a camera in her family. That's where that cedar shotgun photo came from in the early going in this. Okay. All right, so here we go. I'm guessing 10, 12, 7 or 8. 7 or 8, okay? So now we go up, now we're up into junior high school, probably 7th grade or thereabouts. Okay. I'm beginning to see some resemblances here. Sure, you may get mad at me, but I think you kind of look a little like Mama. What do you think? I don't know if you'll go for that or not, but I think so. I'm beginning to see some of those resemblances. Now we're in high school.
No, still junior high.
Junior high. You did grow up fast. Ninth grade. Okay. Well, in any case, don't I have this correct? You went on to Austin High because in those days, if you were from the hill country, even right up into my day, they bus you into town from the hills and you went to Austin schools.
There was only one high school.
That's right. Now, if the flip-flop is also true, if you grew up in, say, Creedmoor, and you were a son of a son of a son of a Swedish farmer, or maybe you were the son of a son of a son of a German farmer from the family Lenz, okay? If you were a Burklund or a Lenz, they would bus you into town and you would go to Austin High School, where you being handsome, strapping, young, tall, lean farm boys, you would proceed to meet good-looking girls from the country. Now, I think that happened, okay. So, anyway. Looking for early pictures again. This is our mother and father. I've been told that. The picture on the left is our father from, we've been told, age 17. I don't quite get it. It is not the father I knew. The father I knew had a lot less hair and a lot more jovial and about my shape and all that sort of thing. But in those days, amazingly, we have this picture that surfaced, I know not how. I know this came from our Aunt Lena Grace's photo collection is how we got it here. But I have not a clue where it was taken, all that sort of thing. Our mother was a little harder to find the information about. Looking. I'm looking for an early photograph of an adult Ruby Alice Patterson. Can't find it anywhere. This is as close as I can get. And you remember those little prints they used to make that were about the size of a quarter or a $half? And sometimes they say Studers down at the bottom of them. They were called contact prints because they're just about the same size as the negative they came from. This is what one of those was, and it was souped up with the ability of Adobe Lightroom so that we could get some of the blur out of it and all that sort of thing to see where we go. And that was kind of important to me because you'll see in a moment or two. But first of all, before we get into photo analysis, I want to tell you about our grandparents. On our father's side, we had rough and rowdy types. That would be Pate Patterson and Katie Patterson. If you've been to, some of you I know you've been to Patterson family reunions in the last couple, 3 years, and we get into these horrendous arguments about what was our grandfather's name. Was it Pate or was it Peyton? And I mean, they want to fight about it. So, and that's kind of typical of the Patterson clan. They would fight about anything or nothing. And they came from a long line of gunfighters that mostly were on the receiving end of the lead. And there's a whole other story that we won't go into today, but there's a feud that started in South Texas about 150 years ago. It was over cattle. It's been even memorialized on the History Channel in a thing called the Sutton-Taylor feud. People were fighting over cattle that had not been branded, that could be claimed as his and hers and theirs. And our Patterson clan came from right square in the middle of that. As I say, we were on the losing end. And Pate Patterson's mother, whose name was Celia Ann Sutton Patterson, She was a second before she married into the Patterson clan. She packed up her little kids, one of whom was Pate, and got as far as the edge of the hill country before she decided she didn't want to be in any part of that shooting mess anymore. On the other side, they were a little bit more civilized. On the Grace side of the family, not particularly well known, but we have this family photo of our mother when she was, we think, 7 years old. The little child held in the lap. Again, I was telling you, I was looking for young adult pictures of our mother. Can't find them. We jumped from age 7 all the way up to the mid-40s where she'd had 4 of her children already. So there's a huge gap. But when we're looking for those family resemblances that we know are there, it's appropriate to compare our mother at age 7 with our Jerry at about age 7 or 8. And I've had people come up to me, and I don't see the comparison. I think I do. I think it's in the smile. So there you go, my dear.